Ever feel like your brain is a total battlefield? You're trying to get one important thing done, but it feels like 1,000 tiny distractions are just storming the gates. Well, you're definitely not alone. In today's explainer, we are going to build a fortress for your focus, a structure so strong it can handle pretty much anything. So let's get into it. Okay, so our first step is to actually name the enemy. Because this isn't just you having a lack of willpower. It's a real modern condition called continuous partial attention. It's a term from researcher Linda Stone, and it basically describes that constant low-level scanning we do of everything around us. It's all driven by this deep-seated desire not to miss out on anything. Now you might be thinking, wait, isn't that just multitasking? And that's a great question, but they're actually pretty different. See, multitasking is something we choose to do, hoping we'll be more productive. But continuous partial attention, that's an automatic, unconscious habit. It's not about getting more done. It's about this constant need to stay connected. And honestly, that's what makes it so exhausting. So here's our battle plan. First, we're going to get a handle on the crisis we're all facing. Then, we'll start building our fortress, starting with the outer walls. That's our environment. After that, we'll get the army inside ready by fueling our minds and bodies. And finally, we'll master the strategies and habits we need to defend our focus day in and day out. Okay, let's start by really sizing up the threat. Before we can build a solid fortress, we need to know exactly what we're up against, right? Let's take a look at the real costs of living in this constant state of distraction. And the consequences are, well, they're pretty serious. Think about it. When we're constantly switching tasks, it messes with our working memory. It's kind of like trying to run too many programs on a computer at once. Things start to freeze. It also totally kills our creative ideas and makes it harder to think flexibly. And of course, it cranks up our stress levels, feeding that dreaded fear of missing out, FOMO, and leading straight to burnout. All right, now that we understand the enemy, it's time to build our first line of defense. This is all about getting control of our external world, our physical spaces, our digital spaces, to create some really strong walls for our focus fortress. And this picture, yeah, I think we've all been there, right? Hunched over a laptop on the couch or at the kitchen table. It might seem fine for a little while, but trying to work like this for hours on end just leads to physical strain, fatigue, and pain, all of which are major enemies of focus. So the trick here is to be intentional. We've got 4 simple steps, based on advice from ergonomics experts. First, have a dedicated workspace. This sends a signal to your brain that, okay, it's time to focus. Second, an external mouse and keyboard are absolute game changers for your posture. Third, a good supportive chair is a serious investment in your own health. And finally, and this one is huge, stay off the couch for work. You need that mental boundary. The couch is for rest, your desk is for work. And it's not just about physical comfort. We also need mental space. A study on what helps students be productive found that the 2 biggest factors were privacy and tranquility. Simply put, we do our best work when we're in a quiet, secluded space where we won't be interrupted. This is a non-negotiable part of your fortress wall. So with the outer walls secure, it's time to turn inward, because a strong fortress is pretty useless if the army inside isn't ready for battle, right? This part is all about fueling your mind and body so you can be focused, resilient, and ready for anything. And this is the goal. This is what we're training that inner army to do. It's a concept called deep work. It's the ability to focus completely without distraction on one single demanding thing. This is where the magic happens, where real learning, creativity, and high-quality work come from. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Getting to that state of deep work isn't about some massive one-time effort. It's about building the small, consistent, daily habits that create the foundation for success. And that foundation, it starts right here with the most fundamental thing our brains need to focus: sleep. Seriously, it is not a luxury, it's a requirement. For teenagers, that means a full 8 to 10 hours every night. That's what it takes for your brain to process memories, maintain attention, and actually learn effectively. You just can't build a strong army on exhaustion. And the second part of fueling our inner army is, you guessed it, nutrition. And the impact here is drastic. In the short term, a poor diet means less energy and terrible focus. But the long-term effects are even more sobering. We're talking memory loss and even an increased risk of cognitive decline. What we eat literally fuels our ability to think. Okay, so our fortress walls are up and our army is fueled and ready to go. Now it's time for the battle plan itself. Let's dive into some proven, actionable habits and strategies you can use to really manage your attention and win the day. One of the most powerful strategies out there is the Pomodoro technique. And its genius is that it's so simple. You just work in these focused 25-minute sprints. It tells your brain, hey, this is manageable and a break is coming soon. This structure totally fights procrastination and builds up your focus endurance over time. Those little breaks are key for recharging. How you start your day really does set the tone for everything else. This timeline shows how top students build momentum. And notice, it actually starts the night before. That reduces the number of decisions you have to make in the morning. Then it's all about waking up with purpose, hydrating, moving your body, and fueling up before you even look at your to-do list. So, how do you make these new habits actually stick? Well, there's a really cool technique called habit stacking. You just link a new habit you want to build with one you already do automatically. So right after you pour your morning coffee, you review your planner. By linking the new thing to an old habit, you make it almost effortless to adopt. And here it is. This is maybe the single most important habit to adopt. If you do nothing else, do this. Top achieving students protect their focus from the second they wake up. They do not start their day by flooding their brains with the chaotic, reactive energy of social media. They start with intention, not distraction. So, we've laid out the entire plan. But victory isn't a one-time thing, right? It's about living inside your focus fortress, day after day. It's about turning focus from this constant struggle into a practiced, reliable skill you can count on. So let's just quickly recap the core principles here. These are the 3 pillars holding up your entire fortress. First, your environment, that dedicated, quiet space. Second, your mind and body, the non-negotiable foundations of sleep and nutrition. And third, your habits, the daily routines and strategies that act like guards on the wall. And this is so important to remember. This is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. Don't try to change everything all at once. Just pick one thing from this explainer, just one, and start there. Small, consistent actions are what build an impenetrable fortress over time. So, that leaves us with just one final question. Looking back at everything we've talked about, your environment, your body, your habits, what's the first single brick you're going to lay down today to start building your own focus fortress?